First person that comments on my legs gets barred from the channel. That's the first thing I want to say today. It's roasting. This is the new Volkswagen Tiguan. And I've had a look at it in Nice earlier on in the year, but this time the steering wheel is on our side and I've had quite a bit more time to get used to this car, test it out with the family, dog, bikes, all the things that you are probably in the same boat as me with when it comes to choosing one of these cars. The last time I had the Tiguan on the channel, it didn't have an R badge on the front. Do not confuse this with a Golf R. It doesn't have 300 brake horsepower. It's the R-Line trim, which you'll pay quite a bit for. But if you're PCPing the car, generally R-Line cars have a better guaranteed future value. We'll get into the price details of this car a little bit later on, because it's not cheap. What I do think the Tiguan, Volkswagen have managed to capture with this car is, it's made a family SUV kind of sexy. If you're in a point of your life where you're like, oh, I really don't want to give up the nice car, I do believe that particularly with this latest gen, and even the last one with the Sudoku alloys, these are 19s. They're possibly love or hate. I'm not really sure what way of the fence you'll fall onto, but in black with the R-Line kit, the roof bars, you know, it's not a bad looking car that is a family wagon. There sure is plenty of space back here, whether it's feet, knees, head, adjustability. Even on the backs of these seats there is a little cable that you can pull and you can adjust this. I don't know why you want to see it like that, but if you wanted more space in the boot, you could. So there's different angles that you can do on that. Armrest is very useful. Pull this out and you've got a device holder that sits in here. Push them down, you've got drinks holders. So that is cool. Big hump on the floor in the middle. Your own climate control and 2 USB-C charging points. There's gadget holder and pockets down here. One thing that you do notice, they've got soft touch up here in the front. Very scratchy in the back. That level of cost cutting is annoying. Things do get noticeably plusher up front. For example, these R-Line seats. You can't mistake them. They're huge. We've got physical buttons back. This new software platform and new screen really pops out at you, as does the driver's instruments, because they're also really sharp and bright. The R-Line version gets this ambient light that you can see it right across the front of the glove box that lights up at R at night time. Much softer plastic. I mean, that's quite like, and sort of fake leather, whatever it is, that's much like the Touareg that you get in terms of finish. Good adjustability in your steering wheel, in and out, up and down, the way it should be. 2 USB-C charging ports, 2 wireless pads. The chargers down there are much more powerful than before. It's kind of annoying that there's nothing here to cover this over. So if you had anything here, there's no slidey thing. And the armrest slides, but you know what I mean? There's nothing to shield anything here. This volume / mode knob, and as soon as you put your finger near it, it knows that you're nearby. I don't really use it. So you've got volume here, you've got volume here. I don't know if you need volume here. Maybe it's just me, but I just think it's too much. So the leg extenders in the driver's seat come out. They don't in the passenger. And they're all manual. And for this price, I know it's based on add-ons rather than just the baseline of the car. But when you're $3,000 off 70, you kind of want electric seats, extenders here, and this stuff in the back. Now, I've been getting on fine with the software overall. There's a couple of bugs with it, perhaps, or further tweaking needed. I'll explain that in the drive in just a second. Gear shifter is now over here. Windscreen wiper spray is now here. Do I like it? Do I not? I don't know. You get used to it. Head-up display in this car. No glass roof, again, for €67,000. So it is nice. It feels very premium. There are plenty of points in this car where you feel this could be an Audi. A lot of driving assist stuff going on. Very easy to use. Got to turn off the speed monitor every time, but everything else doesn't beep at you too much. So I like that. Change your ambient lighting colour in here, mess with your seats, do all that stuff. CarPlay, Android, all wirelessly, as you'd expect for the price. It's just those little things I think are a little bit tight. You can obviously fully pull this thing out as well if somebody spills a latte all over it. I like it, just a couple of things I think they shouldn't have done. The baby Touareg queues continue over the back. In some ways, you have this big, long red strip with your lights. No red badge like the Touareg Tiguan over the lower part of the boot. Bit of chrome going on in this R line. A lot of brands are ditching chrome, but they're continuing with it, as are they continuing a wiper and quite a large boot spoiler. One of the main reasons you might consider the Tiguan over other cars in the segment is the boot. 652 litres. And if you need a bit more space, this parcel shelf boot floor drops down. Speaking of parcel shelves, that could be flexible. It's a little bit of a pity that it's not. But as boots go, and you've got different storage parts, stuff like you'd see in a Skoda Kodiaq, but they've made it into the VW as well, shopping hook holders, all that usual stuff. There is a handle here for closing it. You obviously don't remove that if you have an electric closing version of the boot. But yes, boot space for a family is ginormous. One of the saving graces of this car is the dynamic chassis control, and VW are trying different damping setup on the new Passat across the group and the new Superb. It's available in this car as well. I've always thought it was worth it when I've driven cars with it, but it's another one of those expenses that you mightn't always want, unless of course it comes as standard. One of the questions you probably have is this 2 litre 150 brake horsepower TDI engine enough? It's adequate. It's never going to fly you down the road with huge levels of acceleration. There is a 190 4x4 diesel version for that. But as a commuting vehicle that will deliver 5 litres per 100 kilometres when you need it to, this is the workhorse that you'll probably want. It's just the mid-range torque, hard acceleration. There are perhaps sometimes cases where you just might wish it had a little bit more grunt. A lot of people probably wouldn't even notice. Can you ever truly make a car like this exciting to drive at this price point? It's not one of the areas that you're going to remark on most about the Tiguan. But I don't think the expectation is there at the same time. It's certainly comfortable with the DCC, as I mentioned. Bit of tire noise, nothing too major. Again, 19-inch alloy wheels. As a car that's going to transport your family from one destination to the other, though, you know, that's really where it's very strong. A couple of issues I've had. So the lane keep assist can be quite severe on smaller, less marked roads. It's sometimes a little bit unsure as to what it wants to do, and it thinks you're veering across. In cruise control in the Port Tunnel in Dublin, for example, driving in a straight line, 2 hands on the wheel, and it's beeping at me to take over the steering, and you keep having to just gently wiggle the steering wheel to let the computer know you're still there. From chatting to some of the guys who work in that area in these vehicles, that they do tweak them all the time. They do over 1 million kilometers with a combination of different drivers and different vehicles before we get to buy a new model. And they test normal things like that, just as does it pick up speed signs? How is it with blind spot? What's it like with lines that aren't painted too clearly anymore, and country lanes? All those different things that come into play, but still there are a couple of parts there that could be ironed out even better. Doesn't feel as big as the Kodiaq, because it's not. It's a bit more nimble and agile, perhaps because of that. I don't necessarily feel there's huge levels of body roll in it. It's just not a car that you're going to be, I can't wait to drive that and go on a journey. It's just not one of those cars. But when you need to fit your dog in it and all that stuff, then, and your kids and their bikes, and you'd be like, I'm glad I bought a Tiguan. It's got a really big boot, you know? That's kind of the point. As a family vehicle, it's never been better. But the O-line version is just a smidgen under 60,000 euro in this 2 litre diesel version of it, and this version has quite a few extras, bringing the price to 67,000 euro. And that, my friends, is a lot of money. The most revolutionary thing about the new Tiguan, if you could even use that word, is the looks. It still drives quite like the old car. There's areas where you can look at it and go, ah, come on, VW, like, that's just not right when it comes to some of the interior bits that I've demonstrated today in the video. But the Kodiaq and the Tiguan, they're kind of king of the segment, and I think this version is still going to be desirable. I think you're going to have last gen Tiguan owners lusting after this, and perhaps people that haven't had one before are going, oh, that's nice. Certainly this car has turned a lot of heads this week, and I don't think they're looking at me. I think it's the car. And if that's, I mean, it's anecdotal, but you notice when people are looking at different cars because you're driving so many different cars every week. And this turned a lot of heads. It is very expensive now, particularly in our line. The gap between the entry and this car is nearly 20 grand. And that's a lot. The price VRT-wise and everything with diesel, you want to really need a diesel. The plug-in hybrid might be the one for you. Unlike the Kodiaq, there will be a different car that'll be a 7-seater. This is just going to be a 5, whereas with the Kodiaq you can get a 5-seater if you get the plug-in hybrid. You can't get the plug-in hybrid with the 7-seater. But I think I'd be considering petrol to bring the price down at least. Or maybe you just don't care and you're like, that's what I want. Either way, you're getting a very good-looking car. It will do all the practical stuff your family wants you to do. And it's reasonably all right to drive. They are my thoughts after a week with the new Tiguan here in Dublin. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.